Hello and welcome to the Private Practice Podcast. I'm Dr. Brooklyn Storme, and with nearly 30 years experience in the industry, I'm really excited to share practical insights, valuable wisdom, and all the tools that you need to build a thriving private practice. So whether you're a counsellor, psychologist, social worker, or play therapist, this podcast is all about keeping it real with stories, strategies, and all the support you need to help you flourish in business. We're going to be embracing a mind, business, spirit approach, diving into honest conversations that will uplift your practice and soul. And if you haven't already, come and join us in the Counsellors Connect Australia Facebook group. It's totally free and you'll find a warm, supportive community of like-minded professionals. So go grab your favorite drink, your journal, a pen, get cozy, and let's dive into the mind, business, spirit approach to private practice that you've been looking for. Welcome to the Private Practice Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Storme, and so happy to be here with you this morning. It's 11:30 on Saturday morning, and I know some of you look forward to getting this podcast, and so I wanted to show up for you and record it today. So today I am answering a question from Donna, who is in one of my communities, and she's asked me to speak more into the masculine and the feminine when it comes to running the business, running the private practice. And I love talking about the masculine and the feminine so much, and I've got so many podcast episodes on it. If you like and you want to listen to some of those ones, just use the search function in the podcast app that you're using. But for today, I'll try and take a little bit of a different angle on it. And I want to talk with you about how I use these strategies. It's just part of who I am now. It's just second nature. You know, we talk about conscious competence, unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, and I forget what the fourth one is, but it's that quadrant. This for me now is unconscious competence. Like, it's just in me. It's just how I operate, always using the masculine and the feminine. And I really can say hand on heart that it's helped me so much in my business in terms of how I see my business, but also how I experience the business. So I want to share with you a little bit about what it looks like in a practical sense today. But before I do, for all the new listeners, let's go over a little bit of the theory, a little bit of what's behind it. So look, everybody has masculine and feminine energy within them, irrespective of your anatomy, okay? Irrespective of how you were born or how you identify, all those kinds of things. We all have these two energies within us. When I was learning about the masculine and the feminine, it was taught to me in this way. I've since learned about it in China, and my teacher over in China was using words like yin and yang. So it's really up to you. The language and the verbiage that most aligns with you is going to work best. But for me, it's masculine and feminine. So we've both got feminine being yin, masculine being yang energies within us. And it's when we are able to harmonize them that it's thought that we have balance, okay? Not just in business, but we're focusing on business at the moment. But in order for us to be successful in our business, I believe if we take that approach, it means, okay, in order for us to be successful in business, what does balance look like of both of those energies? So I'm going to explain to you what they both are, and then we can have a look at, okay, how do you know if you're in balance or not, and how do you bring yourself back into balance, and what can it mean for the success of the business in terms of like the quarterly or the annual goals that you've got in your business plan, okay? So it's being able to blend things like having structure, having systems, having processes with trust, intuition, receptivity, and practice wisdom, okay? And it's really important to know that, it's not saying that the masculine's better than the feminine and the feminine's better than the masculine. There's both, like there's the law of polarity, right? We know that everything's got two sides. So there are going to be some aspects of the feminine that work really well, and there's going to be others that don't. And same with masculine. In previous podcast episodes, I have and will continue to refer to these either as the unhealthy or the shadow sides. Maybe I think shadow side sits a little bit better of both of those. So yes, we have the two, and we have them in their bright and shiny, but then we've also got them in their shadow. So it's kind of like four energies that we're dealing with in life, but we're talking about how do we apply this to our business, okay? Problems will happen in the practice if the energy is tilted in one direction, or if you're favoring one type of energy. That's when the hiccups are going to occur, and that's why balance is so important, okay? And we see this a lot. For example, and I've given you this example before in so many episodes, but people will say to me, I'm barely paying myself. I'm thinking that maybe I'm going to have to go back to, get a real job or something like that. Hang on, Buddy's just walked into his crate. Oh, good, he's come out. Good boy, Buddy. Good boy. Yeah, I've got Buddy with me today. My little Cavi. He's just turned one. He turned one on Mother's Day. Good boy, baby. I'm just trying to keep him calm so that he doesn't make a lot of noise while I'm recording for us. They'll say to me, I'm barely making ends meet. I'm barely surviving. I'm working to pay the rent and the bills and my, software, like their Clinico or their Power Diary bills and stuff like that. What can I do to sort of increase some more money and do it quickly? And of course, one of the most successful and effective and powerful strategies for that is to raise your fee. Now, this strategy works. It's a proven strategy, and it's a masculine strategy, right? Because we're talking about strategy, so it's masculine. So we know that's going to work. But if you're in your wounded feminine, then you won't be able to apply it, and it won't work for you. And you'll say, it didn't work, or you'll say, I'm not comfortable with that. People can't afford it. I work in a rural area and people can't afford it. But I'm not qualified enough to charge that fee. You know what I mean? So we find ourselves in the wounded feminine. We're becoming a martyr. We're coming up with excuses. We're starting to live at effect instead of at cause, all those kinds of things. So this is an example of what happens when you've got, fantastic masculine energy over here, but then it's been met with a shadow feminine. The shadow feminine will win every single time. So that's just an example, and we'll talk more about this. So what if you can balance them? What would that really look like for you? So let's help you get an idea. Let's take the masculine approach for a minute. If you've got a masculine approach to business, this is what it looks like. And you should, as I said, be blending them both, but I'll just talk about the masculine first. The masculine is very forward moving. It's saying, what are my goals? What do I want to achieve here? Why am I doing this? Why am I seeing 4 people a day? What would happen if I saw 6 people a day? What's my goal for the week? How does this fit with my goal for the month? How does this fit with my goal for the quarter? What action am I taking? Loves a plan, needs to have a plan. Probably a planner junkie, loves a plan. Loves to have a diary, loves to have a to-do list, very focused, will always research things, but likes to not muck around, right? Wants to actually get things sorted out and quickly. So they're less likely to go and spend time Googling things. They're more likely to pay their supervisor for an extra session to get the answer. Or book a coaching session, boom, get the answer, rather than wasting time fluffing around on the internet trying to do it themselves and stuff like that. This energy is all about, how can I get behind this thing that I'm working on right now and give it a huge push? It's about making things happen. It's about getting results. This energy is all about, there's no place for emotion in the business. You've got to have your business head on. You got to be super serious, and it serves you really, really well during some situations in the business where maybe there isn't space or capacity for emotion to show up in that moment or at that point in time. It's really about understanding, right, I've got to compartmentalize things. There's a time and a place for these feelings to appear. They like to be very, very professional. So on their website, this person who's mostly in the masculine is probably going to have like a professional headshot rather than a selfie. They're probably going to well, I don't mean this in a bad way, but they're probably going to mislead their audience a little bit, because on their website, they're probably going to say we and our when it's really just them at the clinic. But it makes them feel like they're puffed up a bit more and that they can be taken a bit more seriously if they use words like we and our. They might also use words like boutique. We're a boutique practice. It's just them, and they're not actually boutique at all. In fact, they don't understand what it means to be a boutique practice, but they've heard it. They think it sounds professional, so they pop that on their website as well. They're about persisting. And they're all about, no, I'm going to stay back until this is done because I've made the commitment. They follow through on their obligations. If you are in a position where you're looking to hire a subcontractor for your practice, having someone who is in the masculine means that this person will always work to the best of their ability, and they're always going to try and get tasks completed on time and in time, okay? If you are very clear with that person about what their responsibilities are and what your expectations are of them and their performance, having that framework allows them to perform and succeed and achieve, and they're happiest when they're performing, succeeding, and achieving, okay? They are very focused, and in saying that, their focus is usually on the business side of things. They're focusing on what do I need to be tracking, because they know that when they track data, that data tells a story. It provides information about what the business is lacking, where it needs to pivot, what needs to be changed in order to achieve the goal or get to that outcome that the practice manager is wanting or the practice owner is wanting. Somebody who is in the masculine is also very good at recognizing when they have too much on their plate, and they will delegate. But apart from that, they are also very good at recognizing what's not in their zone of genius. This is because their focus is on being efficient and they don't like to waste time. Somebody who's in the masculine energy does not want to be constantly on a learning curve. They're willing to pay someone else to do it, and so they will delegate. This person in private practice is probably somebody who says, I'm not interested in social media. I will get somebody to do my social media for me. I'm not interested in making, I don't know, printable products for my private practice. I'll get somebody else to do it for me. I like making products to sell because I know it's going to make the money, but I don't like listing them on Amazon or Etsy, so I'll pay somebody to do my listings for me. That's the mindset and the mentality of somebody who's mostly in the masculine, right? Always going for the best possible outcome. They take responsibility for their actions. They are highly coachable because they want to know how to do things, and they implement the advice and the guidance that they're given because it's so important to them to get the result, right? They're not going to be there arguing and back chatting with the coach, and they're not going to be there just nodding along going, yep, I'll do it, and not doing it, and then coming back the next week with no change. The person who's in the masculine energy is prepared all the time for meetings. This person is not going to turn up to supervision with nothing to talk about and say, well, I don't know really what to talk about today, or I didn't really prepare anything. They don't waste people's time. They respect people's time, and they expect their own time to be respected. So for that reason, there's a high level of I'm in this and we're doing this, and show me how and help me understand so I can do it better. This person is an achiever. They're very goal oriented. They respond well to seeing improvement in things like bottom lines. Bottom line doesn't only have to mean the money. It could mean retention. It could mean, like client retention. It could mean bottom line in terms of followers on Instagram. It could mean all kinds of things. But that's where they get their dopamine hit, through achievement and success, forward moving action. Okay. And all of those qualities are required to create success in private practice in any business. The feminine approach looks a little bit different. So the feminine approach is all about, how can we build relationships with people? How can we connect with people? And in all honesty, in all my years working with the masculine and the feminine, and all the therapists that I've worked with, be them psychologists, counselors, social workers, play therapists, OTs, whoever it is, nearly all the time when people come to me, they're in either their beautiful feminine that's working really well, or they're in a shadow feminine. It's very rare that I meet somebody who's in their masculine. The people that I work with that tend to be masculine dominant in their energy in their business tend to be ones that have a group practice, and they've had to learn how to do things like manage team, delegate tasks, coordinate staff. How do I balance employees versus subcontractors when I'm requiring my employees attend my networking morning brunches, but I can't make my subcontractors, and so there's this disharmony. The masculine will always be running a group practice. It has to, but they're supported by the feminine. Anyway, most of us who work in solo private practice moved into therapy to nurture and nourish people, to build relationships, to help others heal. And most of us, so that's the feminine, and most of us went on our own journey at some point where we were being healed and helped and nourished and nurtured. And for many of us, that is what the inspiration was for us to choose this course for ourselves. So many of us are in the feminine just very naturally. I think in our industry, this is very dominant. It's about practicing compassion and kindness. So not only with clients, but maybe you practice compassion and kindness with your staff when they're needing leave again, or with your supervisor when your supervisor is, I don't know, like me, and caring for somebody and might need to cancel appointments with you on very short notice. Instead of you getting ticked off about that, you are in your feminine, and yes, it's annoying and it's a bothersome issue and it's going to have to be rescheduled, but you do practice and embody compassion. You understand, you're kind about it, you're thoughtful about it, and it's that embodiment of the feminine that is that bridge between you and the person on the other side of that difficult conversation. Being in the feminine is also about being in flow. So the masculine is in the energy of, we're at point A, we need to get to point B. How do we get there in the shortest possible way with the least expense? The feminine is, we're at point A, we need to get to point B, and I'm going to stop and sniff every flower along the way. I'm going to take off my shoes and wade in the river. I'm going to meditate by the river. I'm going to stop and look at the clouds. I'm going to have interactions with animals along the way. I'm going to take little side tracks here and there. This energy is something that is very comfortable with distraction. In the practice, this person probably has 10 different tabs open on their computer. They've probably got their email, Google, Canva, Halaxy, I don't know, maybe the Beyond Blue website, maybe, I don't know, their social media, their Facebook and their Instagram, right? They've got all those tabs open and they're totally fine with it. And they can click in and out of all those tabs and be totally cool with it. The masculine will have 1 or 2 tabs open. It's usually going to be the calendar tab and the tab of whatever it is they're working on in that moment. They're very focused, and they need to be. That's how they function. But the feminine's like cool with distractions. The masculine probably says, I'm working, my door's closed, don't disturb me. The feminine probably says, I have an open door policy. Come in whenever you need help or if you just need to talk. Two totally different approaches, right? And you can probably relate to either, or perhaps even both of them, because we do move in and out of them, by the way. The feminine is about tuning in. It's very intuitive. It's like what feels right for me in the moment. It's heart-based wisdom. It's tapping into inner guidance. Whereas the masculine energy is like, what's the best way to do this? What's the most efficient way to do this? Let me do a bit of research on this first and put a plan in place and just get it done, right? The masculine is about, what's the strategy I need to take today? What are the 5 steps I need to take today to get an inquiry or another booking? Whereas the feminine is like, do you know what? I'm just going to trust in the universe, and I'm going to allow the universe to send people to me when the time is right and it's in the highest good for them and me and my business and all the planets align. The masculine is about providing and doing and taking action. The feminine is about the opposite, receiving, being creative. So she's not forward focused, she's distracted, and she's cool with that. She's in flow, right? But yeah, the masculine needs step by step by step. The feminine is about receiving. If you find in your business that you're doing so many things, but you're not actually shifting the needle on anything, it's an indication that you're out of balance in your energies and you're not in the feminine enough. So the feminine isn't about let's put on the lipstick and a pretty frock, right? The feminine is about, how do I get better at saying thank you? How do I get better at receiving? How do I get better at connecting with people and building trust? So if you're thinking about your marketing, for example, the masculine's going to say, right, what's the strategy? What's the step? What do we need to do? And we'll go off and do all of that. And the feminine's going to try that on. The feminine will say, oh, okay, if you think I should post every day, then, oh, okay, then I'll post every day, but kind of don't want to, and da-da-da-da-da. And she'll force herself to post every day, and she'll last a little bit of time, and then she'll quit because she's not getting the results, right? It's not going to work for her. What's going to work for her is focusing on, how am I building trust with my audience? How am I building connection with my audience? How am I building rapport with my audience? Does my feed look pretty and beautiful and inviting? What does my website feel like for people? How do I want them to feel when they come to my website? Whereas the masculine is like, right, this is a very clear, fact-based website. It's going to include a book button. It's going to include this. It's going to include that. Da, 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 da. The feminine is about stories. The masculine is about numbers. So the masculine is going to say things like, in Australia, according to the last ABS census, 77.3% of all women in the population experienced some form of anxiety, right? Whereas the feminine will say, it's really normal and common and understandable for you, if you're a woman, to be experiencing things like worry, fearfulness, breathlessness, difficulty concentrating, remembering things, planning. In fact, you're definitely not alone. More women than not experience these kinds of things. And in fact, I did too, and they'll go off and tell their own story. They're all about the story and building the connection. So just giving you the contrast there so you can see what it looks like. She's about showing the emotion. She wants story. She wants the audience to be able to read the narrative, follow her on her journey, see themselves in her world. Do you know what I mean? Her world is color and texture and sound. The masculine's world it's black and white. It's green and red. Okay. The masculine is going to have, as I said, like professional headshots done. Now, they don't have to be corporate ones, but it's going to be obvious to somebody looking at them that is a professional headshot, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But the contrast is the feminine is more likely to take a selfie. She's more likely to take a photo out in nature or that's got nature involved in it. So she's going to be maybe sitting at her desk, and on her desk is going to be a cup of tea and maybe a vase of flowers, and there might be some feminine colors around, or it's going to look feminine, right? And she's going to be holding on to her cup of sacred cacao, or there's going to be like soft textured furnishings in her space. And those will be the pictures that you see on her website. She's trying to cultivate that feeling of you want to be sitting in her consulting room versus the consulting room of the masculine that's a little bit more formal, right? So all these kinds of things. The masculine, probably in therapy sessions and in business, is in its head thinking, right, what's the best way to do this, the best way to do that, or the quickest way to get this outcome, da 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 da. Whereas the feminine is more like, I feel into this, it's heart led, not brain led, or not brain led. It's not thought or mind led. It's led by heart and wisdom. Okay. The focus for the masculine is often on, as I mentioned before, getting results. And those results in business are always going to be money and tracking and data and numbers and things like that. But for the feminine, she doesn't really care about the money. I can say to her, why are you only charging $60 a session? The average session fee for counsellors in Australia now is $150. And she'll be like, I don't really care about the money. I would do this even if I wasn't getting paid. I'm just here to help. I'm here to serve. I want to be affordable. I want to be accessible. I want everybody to have the ability to get the help that they need when they need it. All right. Her focus is not on the business at all. In fact, she needs a business manager, because if she runs a business in her feminine, this business is going to collapse and she'll end up working for somebody else who won't be service focused, who won't be heart focused, who will be in their masculine saying, you need to see this many appointments, you need to be getting this many outcomes, you need to be doing this, doing that, doing that. That's why I'm saying that the balance has to be there. And yeah, she's all about harmony, avoiding conflict, making sure everybody's okay, right? Now, you've heard about the masculine and you've heard about the feminine, but there's also shadow aspects to both of those. So the shadow aspects of the masculine can include things like very confrontational, very at ease with confrontation, just in that state of mind where you're ready for it. It's almost like you're wanting a confrontation, aggression. There can also be avoidance, so just completely cutting off, shutting down, and leaving. So we see this perhaps if there's a conflict or a disagreement or a misunderstanding in the workplace, this person will need time and space, and they're just going to get out of the practice for an hour, or they're going to go home early because they can't be around anybody at the moment. They're so escalated. They need that break. They need that space. Kind of very competitive, and as I mentioned, there can be a sense of control and things like that, right? With the wounded feminine, it looks a little bit different. We've got the aspect of being a martyr, being a real martyr, saying yes to everything, like real people pleasing, yes, in a not great way, and then going and complaining about it later on to anyone who'll listen, just being really toxic in terms of spreading that unwanted vibe throughout the business. They'll also say to other people, they've just got so much work to do, and they'll be constantly exaggerating everything. I saw this in my private practice as well. I had a business that my private practice was the business, but it was like a standalone building. I had 5 treatment rooms and reception and the kitchen area and the common areas and all this kind of stuff. And I remember I hired a social worker, and I was so excited to have this accredited mental health social worker working with us, and we were all seeing 6 to 8 people a day. And, when she started, she freaked out at having to see 6. And I said to her, well, what would feel comfortable for you? And she said, well, in my old job, I just used to see 2. Her old job was working for a not-for-profit. And she said I would see 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. And that was enough because I need an hour to prepare. And then I've got to see the client for an hour. And then I need an hour afterwards for my admin. And I thought, how is it all taking this long? But it was her way of working. And she had to, step up her game and go from seeing 2 to more. But as her boss, I also had to be mindful of, okay, she's not programmed this way yet. She's not conditioned this way yet to work like the rest of us. So, how can we set things up to make it realistic and reasonable for her? So I put her on 4 a day and said, start with 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. Let's monitor it and see how you go. But then behind my back, she was off telling everybody else what a dragon I was for making her do all of this work, forgetting that she's talking to people who are seeing 6 to 8 a day. So yeah. That's just one example, but I'm sure you've got your own examples of people who are in that real martyr mode. The other one that we see with the shadow feminine a lot of the time is being a victim. And we see that my business is suffering because of the financial and economic crisis. When that's just not true. That's not why your business is suffering. There are plenty of other practices that are doing really well and are having their best years yet, and they're still in the financial and economic crisis. So, when we're in victim mode, we're not taking responsibility or accountability, and we're just allowing things to happen, and we're just saying we're at the mercy of them. And often we get in this state of mind when we just don't know how to do things. So I see this a lot with marketing. So many therapists say they're not getting clients, and it's because of the economic situation at the moment. It's not because of that at all. It's because they've never learned how to market. And I'll say to them, I'll teach you how to market and it'll cost you $49 a month. They're like, no, it's not worth it. I think really it's not worth it. $49 a month is not worth it. When you're struggling to get clients, this $49 a month is going to fill your diary and bring in this much money, and it's not worth it. I don't understand, but it's not for me to understand. This person's in that victim mindset, and it's not my job to shift it for them. Right? They will do their own work in their own time, and eventually come around at some point. They're not going to hear it from me. They might need to hear it from someone else. There's a neediness with this person, like constantly checking, am I on the right track? Have I done this right? Is this good enough? Very codependent, overly sensitive, overly emotional. So if you have a group practice and you ask this person to meet with you, they're going to get high anxiety about it. So you have to be very careful about how you word your emails and how you word your phone calls and things like that, because they can be open to misinterpreting your intention or misinterpreting what you're saying because they're worked up. They're very, very emotional. And also very manipulative in this energy. We see a lot of manipulation here, and also withholding. So withholding, undermining themselves, undermining their clients, undermining the practice manager, and it's toxic. Now, the thing is that with all these 4 energies, the healthy or the bright and shiny masculine and feminine, there's also that shadow masculine and feminine, and none of us is solely and wholly one energy, and there's not an energy to strive for either. You don't want to say, I'm going to run my private practice in the masculine because I think that's what I really need and I haven't been doing it. No. If you run the business in the masculine, you'll be doing, and you'll be very busy, and you won't shut off because you will always have a goal, and you'll never celebrate your achievements because your focus is on, yeah, okay, I did that, but I've also got to do this next thing that I'm still working on. And you will never fill your diary because you don't know how to receive. And you'll be saying, gosh, I've got all these strategies in place and it's just not working. So it must be because I don't have the right strategy. So now I'm going to go and do another course and buy somebody else's course and do that. And you'll never, ever, 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 ever get the success that you want because it requires you to be in the feminine. to get that, right? The masculine is the doing and the providing, but the feminine is the receiving. The masculine is drawing the blueprint for the building of your private practice and then putting in the foundations and the supports and the frames, and then putting in the windows, the flooring, the doors, the glass, all of that. It's the feminine that will then come in and make a beautiful garden, choose the paint for the walls, choose the furniture, choose the furnishings, fill up the house with food and music, and start inviting people in, right? You need both. If you're saying, oh, well, I think I've been mostly in my masculine, this is really landing for me, Brooklyn, and maybe I need to step over into the feminine for a while, you will not be successful in your business if you're mostly in your feminine, because you will never get stuff done. You will never finish anything. You will have overwhelm a lot of the time because nothing's finished. You will have so many things open that you're working on, so many things that are in progress, but nothing's actually getting better and nothing's actually shifting the needle. You will have a beautiful website that you love very, very much. You will have a beautiful brand logo, a beautiful practice name, lovely values, lovely stories and things like this. But you're never going to fill your diary because people are going to maybe come and they're going to maybe find you, but you don't have the systems in place. You say, oh, I don't need Galaxy or Power Diary, I'm just going to do it all manually, or I'll have a calendar over here and I'll write notes over there and I'll do my links for my telehealth over here. It's just going to be a hot mess. And then you're going to have clients that, I don't know, you don't process payments for because you don't know how to process the Visa card. And, you say things to yourself like, I'm not good with tech, even though you probably are. You just haven't taken time to learn the process of what you need to do. And what will happen is you'll have lots of lovely relationships with people, and your clients will speak very highly of you and they'll love seeing you so much, and you'll have beautiful sessions where you feel fulfilled and it's very rewarding. But the money won't be there because guess what? You don't have a cancellation policy in place. And if you do, you don't like using it. You feel guilty charging them the $150, so you undercharge. Do you know what I mean? Blah, 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 blah. So in order to create success in your business, you need to do the two. You need to have the systems, the process, the strategies, but you also need to be in the mindset that's going to support you in receiving, not only in nurturing and making things beautiful, but in receiving. And that comes down to your sense of worth, your sense of self-worth, your self-perception, how you see others, your ability to take responsibility, your ability to be creative and come up with innovative solutions to old problems, all those kinds of things. And so I remember when I first started learning about the masculine and the feminine, it was so exciting for me and it opened up this whole new world, and I was talking about it all of the time. And I think that's what we do when we're learning about things. But for me, my business now, it's just second nature. I have systems and processes in place that support my business. Things like handling cancellations, things like handling contracts, things like handling the money, things like I've got a business plan, I've got a marketing plan. I track these things, but I'm also my feminine. I love being creative. I'm in Canva every day. I love being in service. I'm always adding extra trainings to courses that I have, like Private Practice 101 and the Marketing Essentials in Private Practice course. I'm always adding stuff because I love to be in service and I really love to give, and I want them to love being there, and I want them to get results and come back and share those results with me because it gives me a really good feeling to see that, right? So I've got the balance most of the time. There are times where I do go into my wounded feminine or I do go into my wounded masculine, but they're now pretty few between. Is that what you say? They're far and few between. But it's just my my unconscious competence now. It's autopilot for me to be drawing upon both energies most of the time. And this is what informs how I run my business. It informs how I do my therapy with my clients. It informs how I approach supervision with my supervisees. It informs how I approach my business coaching services and my business consultation and mentoring services. It informs everything. This is what works for me. I'm sharing it with you because, well, you asked and I love to share it. I want you to create success in your business too. Now, of course, in saying that, there's more than, 10 ways to skin a cat or whatever the saying is. You don't have to use my approach. And in fact, there are other private practice teachers and coaches that don't, but you will be able to go and look at them now and you will say, wow, this one's really in the masculine here. It's very rah. It's very track this, here's your data, here's your spreadsheet, da 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 da. Or you might see another one, you say, wow, this is mostly in the feminine. This one's all about you're worthy and you can do it, and it's encouraging and it's beautiful and it feels nice. It's a lovely vibe and she's so supportive and da 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 da. But you'll also be able to think critically and say, right, if this one feels mostly masculine to me, is this the right one to help me with my business? Because will it mean that if I'm mostly focusing on the masculine, will I actually be able to embody that feminine energy that I need to have for the balance in my business? And likewise, maybe you see a different one and she's mostly in the feminine and it feels good and she's in service and she's helpful, but can you trust what she's giving you? Because she's not doing the research, she's going by what feels good. So she could be telling you, oh, go and post 3 times a day on your Instagram, but how do you know what she's telling you is true and real and powerful and going to work? She's not a process person. She's not in that energy. So you can't really trust a lot of her strategies that she's going to give you, but you feel good in her space. So you have to ask yourself, okay, I feel good here. I really feel nourished and seen and heard here in this group, in this space, in this program, but I can see I'm not going to get any shift with my business. I can see straight away I'm not getting any results with my marketing. I'm not getting any results over here. And that's partly because she's mostly in her feminine, but it could also be partly if you're not implementing as well. But it's most likely because she's in her feminine. She's not going to be helping you with strategy and, getting stuff done. And if she does, you're going to have to do your homework and do your due diligence and check that what she's telling you is actually going to work, because she's not a strategy person. So try now and just be aware. Like next time you go online on your social media and you're following someone, doesn't matter who it is or what industry, ask yourself by watching their little reel there or looking at their website or reading their comments, get in the habit of saying to yourself, right, I can see this one's in the healthy masculine, this one's in the wounded feminine, Start spotting it. And guess what? The more that you start to spot it, the more you'll start to spot it, because it's going to be in your awareness. And then once you've gotten used to seeing where other people's energies are at, you can then get better at zigging to their zag if they're clients or their co-workers, things like that. But also you can then start applying the framework to you, to your business, and also to aspects of your business. So doing the work on the couch is only one part of private practice. And there are so many other parts. There's the marketing part, there's the financial part, there's the HR part, there's all of these different parts. So start to just look at one part and ask yourself honestly, am I showing up most of the time balanced here? Or which energy do I tend to show up most in, and what is that meaning for me, and what do I need to do next, right? And this will really, really help you. So I just wanted to share that with you today. I want to say thank you so much for the question as well. I will see you on the next episode, which is for Wednesday, and I'll give you some private practice tips on Wednesday. Keep the questions coming. So if you want to send a question like the others have been doing, you can do it a few ways. You can either just DM me, or I've got posts up in all of the groups and you can see other people's questions in there and you can add onto those as well. Okay, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Private Practice Podcast. Have a gorgeous day. Bye for now. I really hope that you got so much enjoyment, value, and insights out of this episode today. And if you did, please feel free to go ahead and leave a review. When you leave a review, it means that more therapists can access this help and support and tools to support them in their private practice and in their journeys. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Have a gorgeous day.